One former West Virginia Mountaineer was selected in this year's NFL draft, while two others inked deals as undrafted free agents. And then an additional two Mountaineers have been invited to participate in rookie camps. Find out just which teams these former Mountaineers have been selected by right after the intro. Let's go. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads webcast. And before I get into this video, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. If you would do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button, give us a like on this video. It'll really help not only this video's performance, but future videos performances here on the channel as well. And if you're a West Virginia fan and you haven't already, be sure hit that subscribe button. Helps us and it helps you, as it helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, let's get into it. All right, as I stated in the cold open to the video, West Virginia had one player selected in this year's NFL draft, and of course it is none other than the franchise all-time leader in tackles for a loss. We saw that record broken this season. The Stills family legacy continues, with Dante Stills being selected with the 213th pick in this year's NFL draft, being picked up in the 6th round, as you see there, by the Arizona Cardinals here. This tweet coming from them on Twitter on draft night, bringing all the energy to the desert. Welcome to the Bird Gang at dstills55. So excited to see Dante Stills selected in the NFL draft. Just kind of a culmination of all of his hard work. And you love seeing an in-state player coming from Fairmont, West Virginia, going to the NFL. And I think he'll find a good home there with the Arizona Cardinals, where I fully expect him to not only make the roster, but probably make an impact here in the near future with the Arizona Cardinals. Next up, we have what is, in my opinion, the biggest snub here, and that is, of course, Bryce Ford-Wheaton going undrafted after that unbelievable performance he put on in the NFL Combine. You guys already know about that at this point. We've reported on that here in the past on the channel, but he does end up being one of the most highly coveted free agents to sign there in the undrafted free agency period following the NFL draft, as you see here detailed in this article on WVSportsNow.com by Ethan Bach, and he ends up ultimately signing with the New York Giants, which I think is a good landing spot for Bryce Ford-Wheaton due to the fact that we saw last season the New York Giants wide receiver room kind of weak, right? David Sills did make the roster there, so that was a good thing to see. One former Mountaineer there. I believe he's still returning and probably going to try and make the roster again for the Giants. They did go out and pick up some pieces in the offseason, Darren Waller at tight end, and then they did draft Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver from Tennessee, in the 3rd round. So Bryce Ford-Wheaton will have some competition in making the roster for the Giants, but I think ultimately he will do so and be on that 53-man roster. One of the main reasons that I think that is because of his speed and his ability to play special teams. He could get a job as a gunner on the punt team to start out his career while he carves out a role within the wide receiver room there and tries to find a spot in that group there. We'll see what happens, but I certainly think Bryce Ford-Wheaton has to be one of the most likely undrafted free agents to make an NFL roster this offseason. As you see here, according to NFL.com's draft analyst Chad Reuter, Ford-Wheaton is the 4th best wide receiver that went undrafted, just behind Raheem Jarrett, Matt Landers, and Jalen Marino Cooper. Ford-Wheaton, of course, 4 years at WVU, recorded 1,867 receiving yards while catching 15 touchdowns over his 38 games. Finished his senior season, 62 receptions, 675 yards. 2nd in the Big 12 in receiving touchdowns. But what really led a lot of people to believe that he would get drafted maybe even in the 4th or 5th round was his NFL Combine performance. Just an outstanding performance from someone his size at 6'4", over 220 pounds, still running a 4.3 in the 40 and putting up some impressive numbers there. A lot of people thought he was locked in as a draft pick, myself included, so I was really surprised to see him go undrafted, but glad to see him ink a free agency deal with the New York Giants, and hopefully it's a spot where he can land on an NFL roster. And then how about another West Virginia wide receiver inking an undrafted free agency deal? This time it's Sam James, the graduate of WVU, longtime West Virginia starter in the wide receiver room, really came onto the scene and burst on as a freshman with an amazing performance during his freshman season. Bit of a mixed bag throughout the rest of his career, but I thought he really came on good in his final 2 seasons with the West Virginia Mountaineers, and he's another guy that really has great speed and can play special teams as well. So who knows, maybe he could work his way onto the roster where he will be fighting there in Los Angeles, as you see here detailed in this article on WVSportsNow.com by Mike Ostie. That's right, Sam James has signed a free agency deal with the Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl winners a couple of seasons ago. Sam James will head out to Los Angeles and try and make a roster of his own. Both of the former Mountaineer wide receivers, the two recent graduates that spent a long time starting among the West Virginia wide receiving core, will now fight for a roster spot as undrafted free agents. We talked about Bryce Ford-Wheaton with the Giants. Now Sam James is who we're discussing, trying to get a spot with the Rams. You see there their graphic announcing their undrafted free agency, and you see Sam James down here on the bottom left, our wide receiver from West Virginia, the 6', 180-pound Georgia native who quietly actually had a great career as a Mountaineer. He ended his career, I believe, top 5 all-time in receptions at West Virginia. I believe he was ranked 5th there, and I believe he's ranked in the top 10 all-time in career receiving yards at West Virginia as well. I believe he's 8th there. So Sam James, quietly a long-time starter, really had a good West Virginia career, and it's something that bears mentioning is, of course, his standing among some of the greatest West Virginia receivers of all time at the end of his career there, being ranked in the top 5 in receptions and in the top 10 in career receiving yards. So shout out to Sam James for a great West Virginia career. Glad to see you moving on to the NFL, and hope you're able to land on the roster there with the Los Angeles Rams, the team that has signed him to this undrafted free agency deal, and hopefully he'll be able to make a roster there as he battles for that spot. And then, as stated in the cold open, we've talked about the 1 draft pick. We've talked about the 2 undrafted free agent signings. Now we have 2 players that have been invited to attend rookie mini camps by NFL teams. And the first of those 2 that we'll cover here is Wesley McCormick. We know the transfer cornerback that came into the Mountaineers this past season from James Madison with mixed results, I guess you could say, right? But he does get a rookie mini camp invite from the Washington Commanders, who apparently he impressed at the pro day. So I guess he put on a pretty good performance there, in which he impressed some scouts among the Washington Commanders, and they bring him in for a rookie mini camp tryout. So glad to hear that for another former Mountaineer in Wesley McCormick. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, we've got Jasir Cox, who I thought really came on strong, especially in the latter portion of last season after he transferred in from FCS powerhouse North Dakota State, trying to follow in the footsteps of his older brother, who went from FCS to FBS and then to the NFL, where he now plays for the Dallas Cowboys, I believe. Jasir Cox may see his brother, though, if he makes the roster, then, because he's been invited to attend the Eagles rookie minicamp. As you can see here, they are playing in the same division as the Dallas Cowboys, of course, and the Philadelphia Eagles, having one of the best NFL drafts out of all the teams at the pro level. So he'll have a tough battle to make the roster, as Philadelphia really showcasing a loaded roster heading into this season, it appears. But Jasir Cox, I think, is a very talented player, really came on strong once he found his groove at that spear position for West Virginia in the latter portion of the season, and was one of the main reasons I thought that the defense was able to turn it around, was because of his play at that spot, really helping them out in a lot of their schemes. So I'd love to see him land on the Eagles roster, or at least catch on at some roster, but glad to see him get this rookie minicamp invite from Philly, and we'll see Jasir Cox go there for a tryout and to attend their rookie minicamp. So there you have it, Mountaineer Nation. Those are the former Mountaineers that have landed on NFL teams following this NFL draft weekend and undrafted free agency signing period, if you will. Dante Stills landing with the Arizona Cardinals as the only Mountaineer selected in the NFL draft, drafted in the 6th round there. And then you get 2 West Virginia wide receivers signing undrafted free agency deals, as we kind of expected in Sam James's case. And then Bryce Ford-Wheaton, a bit of a snub, in my opinion, not being selected in the draft, but I think hopefully that will motivate him, and he has a great chance to make a roster, as I think Sam James does as well. I think both those guys probably have a good chance, just due to the fact that they can both play special teams. As I mentioned earlier in the video, that's going to help both of those guys a lot, their speed and their ability to do so. And then shout out to the other 2 Mountaineer defenders getting rookie minicamp invites, Wesley McCormick and Jasir Cox. And we wish the best to all of those former Mountaineers in their pro pursuits. But let us know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on the Mountaineers? Do you think Bryce Ford-Wheaton was snubbed and should have been selected in the NFL draft? And how do you think the other Mountaineers will fare in their landing spots. Which of these 5 do you think will make an NFL roster this upcoming season? Be sure, let us know. We really appreciate the interaction as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.